Hello and welcome to Heart Talk. And we are joined today with Bishop Alphonsus Cullen, Bishop of the Diocese of Waterford and Lismore in Ireland. Bishop Fonzie, we're so delighted to have you with us here on Heart Talk.
Thank you, Maura. It's great to be here.
And could you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and your home environment and the family that formed you in those initial years?
Yes, I was born in West Clare, a place called Glahinch, a lovely place. Was there for the first 4 years of my life. Then the whole family, 10 children, mum and dad, moved to Limerick City. And so there I spent my formative years, really, until I was roughly 21 or 2 or something like that. And I became a teacher, taught in Ireland for 6 years, and then I went to Spain teaching English. And it was there, in fact, in Spain, that I was on my own, the only Irish person working in the school where I was, and I had to think for myself and make my own decisions and not just follow the crowd, you might say. And it was there really that I discovered that all along I had a vocation to the priesthood. Even though it was buried, hidden, it was there the whole time. And the various experiences of my life, teaching, working in Bunratty Castle, the various things education-wise, they were all a preparation really for what later turned out to be vocation to the priesthood. So in 1989 I went to Maynooth and I was ordained in 1994. The last to be ordained by the then Bishop of Limerick, Bishop Jeremiah Newman, God rest him. So I was in a parish for 1 year in the city of Limerick, St. Munchin's Parish, loved it. And then I was asked to be chaplain in the regional hospital in Limerick, 5 years. Wonderful work. Not easy, but wonderful, where you really touch the real essence of what life is about. I often thought, in speaking to the patients, they didn't want to win the lottery. They just wanted to walk out that front door, back to their lives and families. And I was there for 5 years, and then I got a chance to go to Rome to do a doctorate. I stayed in the Irish College there, which was wonderful, for 3 years. And then I came back and I was chaplain in the Limerick Institute of Technology. After that, then I was a parish priest in the most famous parish in Ireland, Rathkeil. And then I got a phone call from the papal nuncio who told me back in 2015 that Pope Francis had appointed me Bishop of Waterford and Lismore, and here I am.
So Bishop Fonzie, can you tell us a little bit about that experience back in 2015, the papal nuncio ringing you with this massive, massive news? How did you process, discern, pray, deal with this?
Well, I suppose the funny thing about it, Maura, was that when he phoned, I was on the landline in the house.
Okay, yes.
So he phoned on my mobile in Rathkeil, in the parochial house there. So I heard this voice, and I just said, "Sorry, could you phone me back in 5 minutes?" And I put down the phone
to the papal
because
nuncio.
I was to the papal nuncio. And then I rang back, and he told me that he would like to see me. So the following day, I was going up in the car, and I was saying, "Well, it's either one of two things: I'm in big trouble, or there's a diocese. I'm going to be asked to be bishop." So it was surreal, terrifying, humbling, and it's amazing how one phone call can change one's life. But that is life. And, I said yes. I said yes because it was part of the original yes I said in 1994, You walk down the aisle in the cathedral, and it's like a commitment to marriage, You're saying, whatever happens, I know the Lord will be with me, and I'm going to say a full yes. And it has been wonderful, exhilarating, tough, and extraordinarily varied. But there are wonderful things happening too. Wonderful things, wonderful people. As a bishop, I am meeting what really matters in life, what really counts. And there are so many exciting possibilities. And I suppose like Pope Francis, when he was asked, what does the Pope do? He discerns. And that's what I'm trying to do constantly. What is the will of God? Because I can have all kinds of wonderful ideas, but if they're not the will of God, well, they're not good, and they're just not going to be successful. So things have happened. Things have happened in the diocese which confirm that they are, in fact, the Lord's will. And a beautiful thing of which you are very well aware, Maura, is the day that yourself and Father Patrick came to me with this idea of setting up a house of formation for young people, this wonderful place which we now call Holy Family Mission, which was confirmed really as being the will of God the following day. I got a phone call from Father Jimmy Brown of the Rosminians, who very generously gave the house to the diocese, and now it's a vibrant place of faith, of life, of joy, of formation, and hopefully the source of many, many fruits for the diocese for years to come.
Your contact with young people, I think it's very evident that it's shaped you massively. And I think that's
Yes.
a key. I see the connection in that in the first part of the plan with evangelization.
Yes.
How important is it to you as a bishop that we reach out to young people and radically try and share the gospel with them?
Sure. It is absolutely essential. And, you know, it is the one thing which came up from the people as well, you know, in the listening process, that this is not just something that the bishop thought up, that this is, I believe, the action of the Holy Spirit encouraging us, all of us, especially the laity, to own their faith and to share their love, their faith in Jesus Christ with all those they meet. How many people can a priest contact in a parish, you know, and have a relationship with? A tiny percentage. But the laity, they're meeting people in their kitchens, in their factories, on the farm, in the school, in the university, in the hospital. If we can show people that Jesus loves them, cares for them, has a plan for them, and wants them to be his missionary disciples, well then we really live our faith, that it's not something that is confined to the church building. Jesus wants to be Lord, King of every human heart. He wants people to hear the good news. And that is the responsibility of every baptized person. So, Matthew chapter 28, that great commission of the Lord. And so I say to you, go to all the nations, teach them to observe all the commands I gave you, baptize them, and make disciples. And that is the key thing, really. Make disciples. Because we are good at teaching, more or less. We baptize, we give the sacraments, we go to all over the world, all different places. The Irish missionaries have done it for centuries. But making disciples, that's what we must do now. This is what Pope Francis too is calling us to do in Evangelii Gaudium, to be missionary disciples of Jesus Christ. You know, Maura, if somebody gave me a new phone, a really super duper wonderful new Apple, whatever, or Samsung, and it was really good, I'd tell all my friends about it. Or if I had a new car with all sorts of gizmos, I would be delighted to tell people about this new car. Surely, if I have met and know and love Jesus Christ, I must. It's the natural overflow of what is inside to tell people about him, that he is the Lord and Savior. So there is a duty and a beautiful responsibility on every baptized person to evangelize, you know, and this will mean a big mentality change, because so many people in Ireland still think that evangelization is something the professionals do. Either the priest or the bishop, the deacon, the religious sister or brother, but it has to be everyone. It has to be everyone to wake up to our baptismal calling, to convert Catholics. That's part of that plan. There are people who are catechized, but maybe they never really got to know the loving Savior, Jesus Christ, and his saving message. So evangelization is key. Evangelization of families, Maura, vital. Family ministry. And it doesn't have to be rocket science, just like what you're doing in Holy Family Mission. Gathering people, gathering families to pray, where all those children will see that faith is joy, it's fun, it's good crack, and it's also profound. And we do it in families. So all those children are meeting children of their own age, and they will have Catholic friends and realize that they're not the only ones and that they have something which is precious, which so many families unfortunately don't have, and how essential faith is for happy family life.
And Bishop Fonzie, you know, I suppose when we think about it, like what you're talking about and that missionary discipleship, evangelization, you know, having people in place to help be responsible to lead this
Yes.
and to work with, obviously to work on behalf of the people.
Yes.
This is very different to when you were brought up at home in
Yes.
Clare, in Limerick,
Sure.
where faith was probably naturally caught
Yes.
as opposed to taught.
Yes.
I'm sure, like your own parents would have had faith, I'm sure, and it was probably a very natural
Yes.
response
Yes.
to live out your faith journey and to practice it.
Yes.
And that's so different from today's reality in Ireland, isn't it?
It is. And society has changed hugely. It's becoming very secular now, very individualistic, where the person chooses his or her own way and truth even, you know. I mean, we've often heard, you know, well, that might be true for you, but it's not true for me. Well, if there is no truth, then how can we have unity? How can we have certainty? But Jesus Christ says, I am the truth. So there, straight away. Now, Jesus is either right or he's wrong. And if he's right, well then that changes everything. Everything about what we do. He is the way, the truth and the life, and he is offering to us that saving message. Yes, so society has changed so much. We can see now an antagonism towards the faith, and of course we know in other countries, undoubtedly the most persecuted faith is Christianity. In so many places, martyrs, people who, for example, in Sri Lanka on Easter Sunday, people going to Mass to celebrate the resurrection of the Lord, and they were blown to pieces. Martyrs for their faith. And in Ireland we can see a different type of persecution, but it is nonetheless there, where if people are trying to live their faith, they may encounter ridicule, criticism, cynicism, but these are all opportunities too. We are getting closer to Jesus Christ when we stand up for him and when we say, Lord, I'm standing with you. There's a beautiful thing about Ash Wednesday, when we wear the sign of the cross in the ashes on our forehead, showing to others that I stand for Christ. And, you know, people will respect us for it, but also they need it, and they deserve to hear the gospel. We need to bring it to them, because our society is also breaking down.
I know also, Bishop Fonzie, that you feel that there's a great need to reach out to those who suffer with addiction, those who carry the cross of being homeless.
That's right.
So I know young people aren't just, they're very close on your heart,
Sure.
but I know that's a big heart, and there's lots of other areas. Can you maybe share some of the things that you feel the Spirit
Yes.
is asking to bring forth in the diocese here?
Yes. Well, there is a man who now lives in Dublin, John Carlin, who has been looking for a place to start up a drug rehab centre for young people, similar to, but not exactly the same as, what you find in the Cenaculo communities, where you gather young people who want to break this habit, gather them in to a small community, give them individual attention, no methadone, no cigarettes, no alcohol, getting back to basics, working, living with others, doing their cooking and cleaning and all of these things, but through community life, through love, through faith in Jesus, through adoration every day, they are beginning to heal the wounds inside, all those wounds that they have carried since childhood, which lead them into a way of life which is destructive eventually. The healing of the heart, which is a slow thing. It doesn't work for everyone. Some people leave the Cenaculo or these places, and they go back to their former ways, which is, of course, very understandable because we are all weak and it's difficult to kick a
Yes.
habit. But so we are trying. We have a house identified, and John and his team, wonderful team of people working with locals here, please God, will open up that house. And then there is an idea which I saw in Denver, in Colorado, Christ in the City, young people giving up a year of their lives, like NET, like Holy Family Mission, living in community, learning the faith, praying, and then going out on the streets 2 by 2, just like in the Gospels. The Lord sent them out 2 by 2, and they visit the homeless. And you know, a homeless person, rather than just a few coppers or whatever, or a sandwich, they really need a friend. Somebody who will listen to them, spend time with them, maybe hours just listening to their story, giving them a sense of self-worth, of confidence back, because you lose those on the street, you know. You can be treated like a number. You lose so much. I would say, if I were on the streets tomorrow morning, supposing it just happened, I'd say within a week I would have lost so much confidence, self-worth. So easy to lose these things because without friends, without family helping you, it's so easy to lose it all. And there, but for the grace of God, you know, go I. I mean, I remember meeting a man who was homeless in London, and it all happened way back in the 1980s when he fell off a truck, broke 2 legs, lost his job. The wife got sick of him at home. He went out, ended up on the streets, and she took in someone else. And it was a whole series of things that happened just from one accident when the truck he was on keeled over. There, but for the grace of God. So we have to reach out. And we have a place in Waterford City as well that we would love to turn into some kind of a soup kitchen, drop-in centre. So please God, the Lord will open up doors, and if it's His will, it'll happen.
Bishop Fonzie, can you tell us a little bit about the motto that you've chosen, obviously as Bishop, because it's quite bold.
It is, yes.
Bold in a good sense.
Yes. Deus atque audacia. God and daring. God and daring. I think we have to do different things. We're in a different world now, different society, and we have to make changes, and change is difficult. It's difficult for everyone, especially maybe for Irish people when it comes to the faith, because we have been doing things in such and such a way for centuries, decades. And while we all intellectually know that we have to change, when it actually comes to the crunch and I have to change a practice, something that I'm doing or something that I'm used to, that's the difficult part. So, God and daring, let's go for it. Let's go for it. Let's be courageous and do new things. And I hope that in the plan, our new diocesan plan, that spirit will enter in, you know, and that we will have the courage to stick to doing new things. So please God.
And Bishop Fonzie, recently we had a massive event that we hosted here in Ireland,
Yes.
which was, of course, the World Meeting of Families and the visit of Pope Francis.
That's right.
What was your experience of hosting that national event, the World Meeting of Families,
Yes.
and seeing families gather from across Ireland and across the world?
Yes, it was wonderful. It really was. The Congress in Dublin, in the RDS, was a highlight for me to meet so many people from all over the country coming to be part of this wonderful event. Just Catholic families, happy to be Catholic, and sharing their faith and seeing how alive the church was, and all the different stands and units that were there. I'm sure, including me, many people didn't realize that there were so many groups and things happening, but they're there in small pockets. They don't make headlines, but they're there. And you know, that is so often the way the Lord works. I mean, isn't it curious? You know, why did He choose Bethlehem? This little God-forsaken outpost of the Roman Empire. Why doesn't He Why isn't he born in a palace right in the middle of Rome? Wouldn't it make more sense? Well, from a human point of view it would, but just the quiet working of grace, and it's happening right across society. And if we can make all that grace bubble up even more with the grace of God, with the help of God. So to see families confident to be Catholic families, and of course very important that they must not try to go it on their own. If they can gather in groups, prayer groups, family days like are in Holy Family Mission, and here with the Sisters, the Apostles of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, here in this very parish, in the Sacred Heart Church, gathering families to pray together, to learn something about parenting. The kids have their games and learn Bible stories and pray, and not rocket science, doing wonderful, simple things, helping their faith and helping them as families to stay united, to stay in love, to stay with compassion and understanding for each other. Because the faith teaches us this, that we are all imperfect, constantly in need of the grace of God. So, the World Meeting of Families then, of course, the wonderful day in Croke Park, that wonderful festival of families, and
it was a real celebration.
It was a real celebration.
And isn't there something in that, Bishop Fonzie, I think for all of us, in terms of trying to live out our faith? It's not about, trying to have it all together, put on a perception that everything's perfect. It is, as you say, even as we could learn from Pope Francis, that faithfulness, that humility, that just being you, the authenticity, that's so necessary for others to be drawn into desiring to live a relationship with the Lord out.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of why in Ireland, when he did come, so many people, maybe people who were, shall I say, sitting on the fence, but those who were there, saw him in the distance, saw the reaction, his presence, representing Jesus.
That's right.
Hearts were changed.
They were.
And even in Australia, where they were watching it in freezing,
yes.
What are the odds?
What are the odds?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Could I ask what your hopes are for the church in Ireland?
Yes.
With all you've shared, the growth, if you like, in secularisation, the many messages that young people and not so young people are hearing, all the plans that are coming up from the shoots, that are coming from the people that are being discerned, that the Spirit is bringing forth to life. What hopes do you have for the church in Ireland?
Well, great hopes, because it is the dream of Christ that everyone will hear the message. Go to all the nations, baptize, teach, make disciples, and I am with you always. So the Lord is always with us. So my vision for the diocese is where each baptized person will realize that he or she is an adopted son, daughter of God, with a mission to be a disciple, to live his or her faith in their ordinary life, and the overflow of the spiritual life within them, that they share that faith to lift up the lives of all those with whom they live, starting with their own hearts and minds. To allow Jesus in, to invite him in, to be a church which is alive, which isn't depending on Father to do things for us, but that each person will realize their own calling to be missionary disciples, and then that message of Christ will spill out into everything that happens in society, so that the homeless and the sick and the poor and everyone who is needy, and we are all needy at some level, will hear the saving message of Jesus Christ.
Thank you so much, Bishop Fonzie, for sharing with us.
Thank you, Maura.
Thank you all for watching at home. We will be praying for you. We'll be praying for the Diocese of Waterford and Lismore and the 45 parishes here in Ireland, and praying for the church in Ireland and indeed across the world. So we each, as we finish, we just really ask the Lord to help each of us to respond to our baptismal call, to
Amen.
be missionary disciples,
Amen.
wherever, in the home, in the workplace, on the gap year, whatever it might be, that
Sure.
we would become who God calls each of us to be. Thank you so much, Bishop Fonzie.
Thank you, Maura. It's been wonderful to be here, and I'd like to thank also, of course, Shalom World TV, and may God bless them, all their staff, and all their viewers.
Thank you so much, Bishop Fonzie.
Thank you.
We live in a media age, of course, an age in which we get almost all of our information either from television or from the internet. Probably less and less of our information is coming through the traditional print media. So in that context, in today's world, an undertaking like Shalom World is incredibly important. And the efforts to catechize and to evangelize through television and through the internet is incredibly important in the world today. And I'm happy to say that my experience of Shalom has been entirely positive, and I am very happy to encourage everyone who's working as part of Shalom World in their efforts to bring the Catholic faith to the world around us. And also I give my special blessing on all those who are involved in Shalom, all those who are watching Shalom, and all the future viewers of Shalom. So thank you, and God bless you.